better off in the USA than South Africa. President Donald Trump has defended his administration's decision to grant refugee status to 49 white South Africans, primarily Afrikanners, asserting that they are victims of racial persecution in post-apartheid South Africa. This move, which marks the first group under a new U.S. refugee initiative, has sparked significant controversy both domestically and internationally. Background of the refugee program. In February 2025, Trump signed an executive order establishing a refugee program specifically for Afrikanners, citing concerns over alleged discrimination by South Africa's black majority government. The first group of 49 individuals, including families with children, departed from Johannesburg for the United States on May 11, 2025. They arrived at Dulles International Airport near Washington, D.C., with plans to settle in Texas. Trump's justification. Trump and his South African-born advisor, Elon Musk, have described the Afrikanners as facing systemic racism, citing affirmative action policies and land expropriation laws as evidence of discrimination. Trump referred to the situation as a genocide, a claim that has been widely discredited by data, showing a decrease in farm-related murders in recent years. Criticism and reactions. The South African government has firmly rejected Trump's narrative, stating that those leaving are not persecuted but rather unwilling to accept societal reforms. President Cyril Ramaphosa emphasized that there is no evidence of targeted persecution and noted that even Afrikaner organizations deny such claims. Critics in the U.S. have also raised concerns about the racial bias in accepting white refugees while rejecting non-white applicants, especially from war-torn regions. Despite strained diplomatic ties and U.S. threats to boycott the upcoming G20 summit in South Africa, Ramaphosa expressed hope for mended relations. The asylum policy has sparked controversy due to its selective application, especially amid tightened restrictions on other refugee groups. Broader implications. This initiative is part of the Trump administration's broader critique of South Africa's domestic and foreign policies, including its relations with Iran and legal action against Israel. The White House plans to expand this resettlement program in the coming months, despite international and domestic criticism. The question of whether white South Africans, particularly Afrikanners, are persecuted is highly controversial and depends heavily on how one defines persecution. What is generally agreed upon? White heavy checkmark yes. White South Africans face some challenges. Affirmative action policies. The South African government has implemented black economic empowerment, B, policies to address the legacy of apartheid. These can make it more difficult for white South Africans to access certain jobs, government contracts, or university placements. Farm attacks. Some white farmers have been victims of violent attacks, which are sometimes portrayed as racially motivated. However, experts, including the South African Police Service, have not found evidence of racial genocide or systematic targeting based on race. Farm attacks affect both white and black farmers. Economic decline. Broader problems like crime, unemployment, and corruption affect all racial groups, including whites, particularly poor whites who have less access to private security or opportunities abroad. But most credible organizations reject the claim of persecution. UN, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and even some Afrikaner organizations do not classify the situation as persecution under international law, which implies systematic, state-sponsored violence or repression based on race. South Africa's white population still holds a disproportionately high share of wealth, access to education, and private security. Key context. The term white genocide, sometimes used by far-right figures, has been widely discredited and is considered a conspiracy theory by reputable analysts. Claims of persecution are often amplified by political groups for ideological or strategic reasons, especially in the context of global immigration debates. In short, white South Africans face economic and social disadvantages in certain areas, but there is no strong evidence to support the claim of widespread racial persecution or genocide.